Done. Cool. Let's move on. All right, this next one is a big one for those of you who don't understand how much of a load you're putting on your PC with extra little graphic elements. A lot of you guys like to add as many animations as you can. I'm just gonna show you how much of a load animations put on your stream. Again, let's take a look here. We got our CPU usage at 11%. We got our GPU usage hovering about maybe 27 on average. Watch what happens when I take off the animated overlay and that animated background. Our CPU usage goes from 8 to 9% down to about 4 or 5%. Our GPU usage goes from averaging about 35 down to about maybe 31, 32, sometimes even getting down into like the low mid 20s. Animated overlays, especially if you've got alerts going on, transitions. If you've got a lot of animations, it's gonna add a lot of load to your CPU and GPU. And with the move towards extremely clean designs being kind of the thing, don't be afraid to go with a static design. And if you're on a budget system and you're scrambling for whatever resources you can, I would say go all static and save your energy.
Current set edition for today's video, great if your was as well. And one of the best parts about most of these overlays is that they are completely modular. So if you and your friends all pick up the same overlay, such as this Rodan one right here, you can change the colors and tweak it to match your brand, and none of you will have the exact same overlay. If you guys are looking to take your stream to the next level, be sure to check out own.tv using my link below to support the channel. Alright guys, so just like we said before, we're going to be going over the best one. Here to help us, we're going to go through everything. I'm going to explain crazy that's going to affect your performance or the quality of your do. That's fine. I don't. System? Yeah, we want to feel like we're in 90. So, just kidding though. Use whatever they read. Streaming service. So to give you the best possible ping, you keep that on auto for the sake of this video. Automatically mess with some settings. Throw performance on your machine. Trust me on that, just use it. The quality difference is not going to be the encode scale are 500 bit 70 that not 120 at 60 frames. Select 1280 by 720, and that will now
Doing something fun today. This is probably time to do this one. I have no identifiers. Let's just build a stream together. I'll show you the bare bone basics, like setting up multiple scenes in the setting. Is that their overlays are modular. So for example, or panels or whatever. And one of my favorite things about it is that their overlays are modular. So for example, if you and all your friends want a similar overlay and you pick up this minimalist series overlay you're looking at right now, each of you can pick and choose different pieces of the overlay to use. So even though you'll all be using the exact same theme, none of you will have the exact same overlay. If you'd like to make the smart move like many from the community have done, feel free to use the link in the description down below. That link also supports the channel when you use it. And then on top of that, if you want 40% off, use code alpha at checkout. So the goal of this video is within the next 10 to 15 minutes or so, set up a live stream that looks comparable to the one that I use when I go live on Twitch, which by the way, I stream every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. Link to that in the description down below. Come hang out. Sound like a plan? Awesome. So with OBS launched and completely bare bones, this is what it looks like. You know, it's weird. You got a bunch of weird boxes. You've got some stuff here with milliseconds, and you got a bunch of little buttons here. In the beginning, all we're going to look at is this area, which is our preview. It shows us what our stream looks like. And these two areas right here. These are all your different scenes. So you can have a gameplay scene here that has your gameplay and your camera over in the corner. And then you can have an intermission scene here, which would be obviously between games when you can blow your camera up larger and interact with your chat a little bit more. And as you switch between them, the different sources are all the elements inside that scene. So essentially, these are folders with all the different things in it. Let's start by making our gameplay scene. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rename. Let's add in a source. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our display. So right off the bat, I know this is a little bit in our display, which shows our display, which you get the point. And here we can see our entire screen. what it's capturing. So we're going to hit OK, and you can see anything I might bring up, whether it's my Stream Deck software or whatever, it's going to show up right here. Anyone that's watching my should be aware of. Another one, instead of using display capture, would be specific in full screen. Alt tab only if you're running a little bit more of a budget PC and trying to game and stream on it at the same stream over here. All right, let's LR going into it. In this one, the computer recognized are connected to my cam link. But if you want, because it's exception-y stuff, I'm trying to cover it with the in a little bit more. That is note is that the order of the sources is important. So you can see right now my webcam is on top of my display capture, and that's entirely because my webcam is on top of my display capture. If I drag it underneath it, look at that. I bring it back up, it goes back on top again. Make sure you're ordering your sources in the order of front to back. So next thing, let's grab an overlay. So we want to add another source, and first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a static overlay, a non-animated overlay, and it's just going to be an image. Call it camera, called white line camera border, and it's just a simple white rectangle, which, by the way, you do. I'm keeping these things simple. This is actually pretty similar to what mine is currently set to. I'm going to turn off the display capture with this to move it one at a time. Cool. Let's turn this back on. Now we got a camera border, and we can do something pretty cool here. We can column whole thing, go to media source overlay form. You can see it's really subtle. It's simple, but it's kind of style to find it. But I'm going to get rid of it by hitting this little minus button. There's one more thing to add to this scene to make it a fully featured gameplay scene, and that's going to be our alerts. So whether you use Streamlabs or Stream Elements, whenever you're done customizing your alerts, they pop you out a browser source, right? Or a URL. So for example, if I were to go to Stream Elements, which is the service I use. So here we can see I've got my sub alerts. This is what they look like. I'm going to copy the link from Stream Elements. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to add one more source. It's going to be a browser source. We're going to call it sub alerts. We're going to paste that URL right in there. We're going to make sure the width and height match what we have it set to in our alert software. So that alert in Stream Elements was a 1080p alert, and hit OK. And now if I emulate another subscriber, you can see on my scene here, let's put them just right. There we go. Got a little Charmander jumping up and doing an alert on my camera. And also we're going to throw this inside our camera scene. So that way, again, if we move this around, our alerts come with us. And this is now a solid gaming scene. You got your camera, you got your gameplay, you got a little bit of a design added to it, and you've got your alerts for when people follow or sub or drop bits or whatever. From there, it's just kind of whatever you feel like adding. And browser sources can be really cool, the majority. So for example, I worked with this really talented widget designer named AC Pixel who made this now playing scene. So you can see if I play Neon Renegade from Streambeats, I can show my chat exactly what I'm playing. And all I have to do is launch this widget, take the URL, create a new browser source, which we will call now playing, and paste it in there. And he told me this is also 1920 by 1080. And there it is. You move it around, resize it if we want a little now playing widget in the bottom left of the screen. Now it's right there. So there you go. You got a really cool now playing widget. You can hear the music playing in the background, and it took me like 15 seconds. So let's jump to the next thing. Let's set up a second scene here. We're gonna hit the plus button right here. We're gonna name it intermission, which is, in my opinion, the most important scene. A lot of people think your gameplay scene is the most important one because it's probably showing the most. But in reality, when you have your gameplay scene up, they're there to watch your gameplay and see you in the corner. And your intermission screen is when you're interacting with your audience. It's where it's about back and forth. The intermission scene is empty because we haven't set anything up yet. But when you click on one, it changes scenes. Now let's do one thing first. The most important part of an intermission screen is the camera. So we're gonna go back. So instead of you set to in here, and you can see there are a handful of options. If you want to do a swipe one, you can swipe left, you can preview it here. I hate those. I think they're terrible. Very few people should use them. Let's add a stinger transition. Stinger transitions are the ones with custom animations. These can be fantastic tools for your stream. They're one of the elements that makes your stream look like you put a lot of effort into it. I would even say they're one of the few times that you can kind of go overboard and do something over the top and people will still enjoy it. Here's the fiber transition. I don't remember what it looked like. Oh, it was this one. That's right. I remember now. So you can see if I hit preview transition, it shows me two scenes. But you can see that it transitions from one scene to the next before the animation goes. So what you do is you can set a transition point in milliseconds. Let's set it at half a second. Oh, you can see the transition right before the doors close. 650 milliseconds. There we go. This isn't my favorite transition I've ever seen. Important crossfade so that my audio, my voice is always there while we've got two scenes in our transitions. And by the way, if you want a little trade secret, click on gameplay scene here and go to transition override. I can actually set a different transition specifically for when I transition to the gameplay scene. So for example, if I want a different transition for each scene, I can go and I can make one individually with a plus button over here, name it properly, and then set it as the transition override. Okay, secret over. I can start talking at full volume again. I hope my microphone even picked me up when I said that. And the last basic function that you should be aware of here is the audio mixer, which is pretty straightforward. Most of the time when you add a source, like for example, the one it's picking up here is the cam link. It's actually hearing the microphone on the camera here. When you add a source that also has audio with it, it's going to add it to your audio mixer right here. But for example, display capture, capturing your display doesn't add your gameplay sound into it. And right now we wouldn't hear any audio from the computer at all. So no gameplay audio, no music, no anything. There are two ways to add audio sources manually to your stream. One of them is to add an audio capture device. So because our gameplay would be computer audio that's outputted to our headphones, we're going to grab an audio output capture. We'll call it gameplay audio. And I would pretty much grab like my headphones or whatever your audio is actually coming out of, which for me would be my Go XLR system audio. So you can see over here, if I pull up someone's stream now, like pull up my boy Wacky Jackie here. Now you can see it's picking up his audio. You can still hear my webcam right here. Yes. And also the gameplay audio is getting picked up. The other way to do audio is one we're going to get into in a second because it's inside the settings. And honestly, it's kind of a preferable way to do it. We'll do it in just a second. But an important trick about mixing audio with these faders that not a lot of people know. You'll notice that it goes from 0 at the top down to negative infinity. That's just how the decibel scale works. Now the decibel scale is a logarithmic scale. And the way it works is that 6 dB in either direction will either half or double the audio levels. So for example, if Wacky Jackie is just way too loud and I want to cut the volume down in half, I'll go down to -6. Now he'll be half the volume. If I want to cut him in half again, I'll go to -12. Let's say I had him at -3 and I want to cut him in half. I'll bring it down to -9, and that will be exactly half the volume from -3. But I don't want the webcam volume at all. I don't want to capture my camera microphone. That's going to sound terrible. So I'm going to mute it, and I'm going to click this little gear, and I'm going to hit hide. And now it just cleans it right off. So let's finish this off. Let's jump into the last area that you need to know at least the basics of, and that is the settings. There are a lot of settings to go through, and I know it's overwhelming, but honestly, like 90 to 95% of the settings, I actually haven't changed. Most of them are just fine in the default settings. So let me go over the ones that you need to be aware of and how to change them. For the most part, you don't need to touch much in general. Let's go to stream. This is where you tell OBS where you're sending your stream to. So for example, from -3. But I don't want the webcam volume at all. I don't want to capture my camera microphone. That's going to sound terrible. So I'm going to mute it, and I'm going to click this little gear, and I'm going to hit hide. And now it just cleans it right off. So let's finish this off. Let's jump into the last area that you need to know at least the basics of, and that is the settings. There are a lot of settings to go through, and I know it's overwhelming, but honestly, like 90 to 95% of the settings, I actually haven't changed. Most of them are just fine in the default settings. So let me go over the ones that you need to be aware of and how to change them. For the most part, you don't need to touch much in general. Let's go to stream. This is where you tell OBS where you're sending your stream to. So for example, from -3. But I don't want the webcam volume at all. I don't want to capture my camera microphone. That's going to sound terrible. So I'm going to mute it, and I'm going to click this little gear, and I'm going to hit hide. And now it just cleans it right off. So let's finish this off. Let's jump into the last area that you need to know at least the basics of, and that is the settings. There are a lot of settings to go through, and I know it's overwhelming, but honestly, like 90 to 95% of the settings, I actually haven't changed. Most of them are just fine in the default. My camera microphone. That's going to sound terrible. So I'm going to mute it, and I'm going to click this little gear, and I'm going to hit hide. And now it just cleans it right off. So let's finish this. off, let's jump into the last area that you need to know at least the basics of, and that is the settings. There are a lot of settings to go through, and I know it's overwhelming, but honestly, like 90 to 95% of the settings I actually haven't changed. Most of them are just fine in the default. My camera microphone, that's going to sound terrible, so I'm going to mute it, and I'm going to click this little here, and I'm going to hit hide, and now it just cleans it right off. So let's finish this off. Let's jump into the last area that you need to know at least the basics of, and that is the settings. If you're streaming on Twitch, you can either go into your Twitch settings and grab your stream key and type it in there, or you can hit connect account and actually set this dedicated encoder transcoding option. And I found that bringing it down to, and I'm going to click this here, and I'm going to hit hide, and now it just cleans it right off. So let's finish this off. Let's jump into the last area that you need to know at least the basics of, and that is the settings. If you're streaming on Twitch, you can either go into your Twitch settings and grab your stream key and type it in there, or you can hit connect account and actually set this dedicated encoder transcoding option. And I found that bringing it down to, and I'm going to click this here, and I'm going to hit hide, and now it just cleans it right off. So let's finish this off. Let's jump into the last area that you need to know at least the basics of, and that is the settings. If you're streaming on Twitch, you can either go into your Twitch settings and grab your stream key and type it in there, or you can hit connect account and actually set this dedicated encoder transcoding option. And I found that bringing it down to, and I'm going to click this here, and I'm going to hit hide, and now it just cleans it right off. So let's finish this off. Let's jump into the last area that you need to know at least the basics of, and that is the settings. If you're streaming on Twitch, you can either go into your Twitch settings and grab your stream key and type it in there, or you can hit connect account and actually set this dedicated encoder transcoding option. And I found that bringing it down to, and I'm going to click this here, and I'm going to hit hide, and now it just cleans it right off. So let's finish this off. Let's jump into the last area that you need to know at least the basics of, and the 4500 made it a little bit easier for Twitch. You can either go into your Twitch settings and grab your stream key and type it in there, or you can hit connect account and actually set this dedicated encoder transcoding option. And I found that bringing it down to, and I'm going to click this here, and I'm going to hit hide, and now it just cleans it right off. So let's finish this off. Let's jump into the last area that you need to know at least the basics of, and the 4500 made it a little bit easier for Twitch. You can either go into your Twitch settings and grab your stream key and type it in there, or you can hit connect account and actually set this dedicated encoder trans. Found that bringing it down to, and I'm going to click this here, and I'm going to hit hide, and now it just cleans it right off. So let's finish this off. Let's jump into the last area that you need to know at least the basics of, and the 4500 made it a little bit easier for Twitch. You can either go into your Twitch settings and grab your and type it in there, or you can hit connect account and actually set this dedicated encoder trans. Found that bringing it down to, and now it just cleans it right off. So let's finish this off. Let's jump into the last area that you need to know at least the basics of, and the 4500 made it a little bit easier for Twitch. You can either go into your Twitch settings and grab your and type it in there, or you can hit connect account and actually set this. And then you've got your encoder preset here. If you're on NVENC, max quality is great. If you're on X264, medium is what you are kind of aiming